Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. It's a big one. It's the championship prediction of the whole 1 to 24 table. Now last season I got one team correct. Millwall finishing in 9th place. Obviously very happy to get one, but we wanted more. It's such a difficult league to predict, but I'm hoping that we can, really step it up now and try and get at least 3 or 4 of these positions correct. Now, it's been quite difficult to try and get this done because I've been very back and forth on a lot of teams. Not sure where to put them. I think it's a very difficult season to predict in itself anyway. The championship's normally hard, but I am struggling with who to put where. I think I've got about 5 teams that I think could go down, and then in promotion I think there's about 7 teams or 6 teams that could end up going and getting automatics. So it's been difficult, but here's my video, so let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to get your predictions down there too. Make sure you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and this is the start now of the season, so we're going to be getting into videos thick and fast, a couple a week. So yeah, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. Let's get in to my predictions for 24th place. And sorry Millers fans, but in 24th place are Rotherham. Now with Rotherham, they always seem to bounce between the two. They are a bit of a yo-yo club recently, and I think they could do with a league in between the Championship and League One, because they don't ever seem to have the quality to fit into the Championship, but they always have too much quality for League One. Paul Warne, I think, did a good job with them last season, but the signings that they've made look like League One players anyway, and I actually think their squad has got a bit worse since last season, considering they sold some of their better players to like Sheffield Wednesday back in League One and things like that. So I don't think Rotherham are going to have a chance of survival here. I think they are pretty much a guarantee to get down, but they could surprise people. They could manage to finally stay in the Championship. And in 23rd, I've gone for Wigan Athletic. Another newly promoted side. I normally feel like 2 go down. Obviously last season 2 didn't go down, but I feel like it's normally 2 over recent years. And I just think they have a very weak squad. Again, like Rotherham, I don't think their squad is good enough for this level without extra signings. They have made a signing in Ryan Yambi, good fullback, will be a good signing for them, Championship level player. But other than that, I'm struggling to really see where their Championship quality is. So I think Wigan, they've came back up. Obviously when they went down, it was due to that big points deduction, because they finished that season brilliantly, but still ended up going down. I think they're going to be going straight back down again, unless they strengthen. There's still, a month left of the transfer window, so there is plenty of time for them to get some players through the door to help them out. But I think basing them on their current squad, Wigan for me are in 23rd place. And the last team in the relegation zone, 22nd, is Reading. Now Reading, they just about avoided the drop last season. They finished 21st. Paul Ince came in. He did an okay job with them. They went on a little run just when he came in, but I'm not too confident on that appointment. I think they're going to really struggle because yes, they've brought in Shane Long, who's obviously a striker who's been in the Premier League over the last few seasons, but he's barely had a game. And all 3 of their main strikers now, Long, Lucas Yao and Yaku Mate all have very bad injury records. Like, Lucas Yao was out for a lot of last season, so was Mate. So I'm not sure that they're going to manage to keep these players fit, and I think it's just going to affect them massively, and that they will end up in the relegation zone. Another massive loss for them is John Swift. Him and Lucas Yao were pretty much the reason that they stayed up last season, and I think losing John Swift is going to be massive for them. He's creative, he can score goals. Taking that out of your team is going to be very difficult for them. In comes Jeff Hendrick from Newcastle on loan. I think it's a decent signing, but if they want him to replace Swift, I'm not sure that he can have that level of impact on this team. So for me, in 22nd place is Reading. Just avoiding the drop, coming in 21st, is Blackpool. Now, this might be a bit of a surprise. Obviously, they came up from League One, and then last season they, finished 16th. They had a very, very good season, but the loss of Neil Critchley is going to be massive. For some reason, he left to be an assistant at Aston Villa. I don't really get that. Yes, he'd get more exposure to Premier League football, but I think he was going that way anyway because he was doing a brilliant job with this Blackpool side. So I think he could have got a high Championship managerial job soon that could get promoted to the Premier League, or maybe just get pinched by a Premier League club, because he does seem like he's that good of a manager. Now, losing Critchley is massive, and I think that's why they're going to drop off and be in a relegation battle. Not too convinced by Appleton. I just don't think he's going to be able to have anywhere near the effect that Critchley did with his side, and this side isn't really that great, on paper. So I think Critchley made them play well together, but whether that's going to continue, I don't think it will. Now, they have got some very good players that, did really surprise last season. Thinking of players like Keshi Anderson, CJ Hamilton, then you've got Shane Lavery, Jerry Yates as well. There's a lot of attacking options there. And then at the back you've got Ekpiteta, who I believe had a good season last season. So there are players on the pitch that I do believe are Championship level, and I think these players are really going to have to pull together and will be able to keep Blackpool up in the end. So 21st place, Blackpool. And in 20th place is our first non-mover. I'm going for Blues. I think we can stay up. The optimist in me says we're going to stay up anyway. Lee Bowyer went out after last season. John Eustace comes in from QPR. Assistant manager, hasn't really had any managerial experience, but he came in. Mark Warburton said some good things about him. He's got good recommendations, saying that he does believe that he will be a very good coach if he carries on the way, he's going. Which is obviously good. It's nice to have a young coach with fresh ideas. He has been dealt a bit of a bad hand because there's normally a lot of chaos going on around the club, but at the moment we're sort of maybe going for a takeover, so all of that's happening, which is never good at the start of a season. It can unsettle the players, can unsettle the manager. It leaves a bit of a funny taste in your mouth. There's a bit of a bad atmosphere. However, we've had some outgoings in Pedersen going on a free, Sanchez going, Bella going, Sunjic just went out on loan, which I don't understand unless we're bringing someone in to replace him. But I thought we would have got the replacement before we sent him out on loan. But incomings, again, I think we've made some good signings. John Ruddy from Wolves, experienced goalkeeper, going to be able to control his area. He is a very good signing for me. Then we've signed two centre-backs in Austin Trusty from Arsenal on loan and Dion Sanderson from Wolves on loan. We had Sanderson last season. He did well for us. Trusty, from what I've seen in pre-season, has also looked good. Then we've also brought in Placheta, winger from Norwich. Norwich fans have said he's all pace, no end product. He did manage to score his first goal for us in pre-season. And he has got pace. He takes players on. He can get the ball in the box. I think he's going to have a good season for us. But he is going to have to do it from left wing back, because John Eustace likes to play a 5 at the back. Seems to be a 5-2-1-2 at the moment, but we'll see how that develops. For me, this season, everyone's going to have to get together, because it's tough when you are one of the favourites to go down. Everyone's already sort of wrote us off, but I think a couple of more additions, which I think we will get in before the end of the transfer window, plus our youth being involved, Jordan James, George Hall. For me, they're the main two. You might say Joe Bellingham. I think he needs another season and then he can really progress. But Jordan James and George Hall, we saw from them last season that they can offer things, and I think they are going to have big seasons for us now. I think with all that coming together, we can stay up. I truly believe that. So for me, Blues, non-mover, 20th place. And in 19th place are Sunderland. Now, you may think, why do I have them this high up? They were the lowest ranked side last season that are now in the Championship, because they came up through the playoffs of League One. So that's the lowest possible ranked side. But I think the stadium is going to be absolutely buzzing to be back at this level. I do think they've already got some good players, to be honest. Looking at their squad compared to Wigan and Rotherham, I think they have a stronger squad. They've got some good players in there. So I think they've already got that behind them. And then they've also made some good signings. Daniel Ballard from Arsenal, I think that's a good signing. He will do well at this level, I believe. Then they've brought in Adji Elise from West Ham. Don't know too much about him, but I have seen that a lot of West Ham fans have been rating him highly, saying, you know, he could do with the experience in the Championship and that he looks like he's going to be a good player. So again, that looks like a good signing. And then you've brought in Jack Clark. Obviously, he was at Leeds quite a few seasons ago. That was the last time he really performed. Then Tottenham bought him, didn't get a sniff. But I think he can sort of start to revitalise his career. Maybe this is going to be the test for him. But Sunderland, Alex Neil came in, you know, part way through last season, and he did a brilliant job. As of, you know, when he came through the door, they earned the most points in League One. So they absolutely smashed it. And I think that they are going to manage to stay up. I think two sides will go down that came up, and I think Sunderland will be the one that's safe. So in 19th place, I'm going for Sunderland. And in 18th place, I'm going for Bristol City. Now, this was a story last season that was great at the front, poor at the back. There were so many goals in Bristol City games. You could guarantee that there would be goals, because they just couldn't keep them out. But then Andreas Weimann, 32 goals and assists last season, which is just incredible for a team that finished so low. They finished 17th. So he really pulled them through. Semenya also had a pretty good season as well. But Andreas Weimann's going to have to be doing it again. Definitely going to have to be firing for them to, you know, have any chance of avoiding a relegation battle, I believe. But if they can sort their defensive issues out, they could really shoot up into mid-table, maybe top half, because they've got the goals there. They just can't stop conceding. They have made some defensive signings. Cal Naismith from Luton has came in, and then Kane Wilson from Forest Green. Forest Green obviously did very well last season, and he was the standout player. So there's some defensive reinforcement. Whether it works, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know if that's enough to really warrant them going any higher at the moment, But if they make some more signings, then sure, they can shoot up the table. So in 18th place, I'm going for Bristol City. In 17th place, I'm going for Cardiff. They've made a lot of transfers. 10 free transfers, 2 loan signings, and 50k on a non-league winger. It's going to take some time for this team to gel together because there's been a lot of changes in this Cardiff side. But there are some good pickups in there. They have brought in Rinomota, Romain Sawyers, Shea Ojo, Marlon Romeo, so some championship level players there. And then they've brought in on loan Cedric Kipre from West Brom, centre back. So he's going to be key for them, defensive reinforcement. So I think there's some good signings for this Cardiff side. I think it's going to take a while for them to gel together. And I'm not sure that I've got too much faith in Morrison being able to get the best out of them. I'm not too convinced by him. So for me, Cardiff, it's going to be a slow start. I think they'll take a while to get together and really gel. And maybe by that time, Morrison might be out the door. But yeah, Cardiff, 17th place. In 16th, I'm going for Hull. Now, this is their first big summer transfer window since their takeover. And with there being quite a big Turkish link, some of the players they've signed I'm not too familiar with, so I don't want to give my opinions on players that I don't know. But they have brought in Ozan Tufan, central midfielder. I think that's a good signing. Especially for a team of Hull's quality, that's definitely going to improve them. And then they've got Jean-Michel Seri from Fulham as well. So again, obviously they finished top of the league last season, so he was very important in their team. Very, very good pickup for a team that are going to be, were in a kind of relegation battle last season and want to get away from that. That's a very, very good signing. So Hull for me, I've also picked up Figueiredo from Nottingham Forest on a free. Brilliant, brilliant piece of business that is, because, again, he was good for them last season. He was a backup, but he was still good. He's a championship level defender. So again, strengthening. This could go either way for me, because there are some players that they've signed that I'm unfamiliar with. So they could not end up gelling. It could end in a relegation battle. But there's plenty of time left. They could bring in some more players and they could shoot up the table. It's a very difficult one with Hull. When a takeover happens, when some money's spent, you never really know what to expect. Because a lot of the players they're bringing in aren't championship proven. But for me, I think this is where I'm going for Hull, 16th place. In 15th, we're going for Blackbird. Now, they finished 8th last season, but they really should have been in the playoffs. They had a brilliant first half and a bit more, but then they dropped off a cliff. It was very, very poor then, and they didn't manage to pick up a playoff spot. When partway through the season, I was thinking they've got a chance at automatics, but yeah, it didn't work out for them. A few teams did drop off, but Blackburn were one of them, and they seem to have got worse. Their squad, I do think, is worse, and I do think Brereton Diaz will leave before the end of the transfer window, which means that they're going to be a bit short up top. Their manager, Thomason, I'm not really convinced by. Don't know too much about him, but I think he might struggle to adapt. And I just think Blackburn are going to slip down to lower mid-table. I think they really overachieved last season with an 8th position. Obviously, partway through the season, they underachieved. But from the start of the season, Blackburn 8th, I think that was an overachievement. And I do think they're going to drop off. So Blackburn, 15th place. In 14th place, I'm going for Huddersfield. New manager coming in, Danny Schofield, was the assistant to Carlos Corberán. Carlos Corberán is, it's going to be some tough boots to fill because he did a brilliant job last season. To get one of the favourites for relegation into the playoffs and third place with a massive unbeaten run in the middle of the season is some doing. He really pulled that squad together. For this season, I think their squad looks weaker. I think their manager looks weaker. So I think they're definitely going to drop off. They could go very far dropping off because look at what Barnsley did. Just a couple of seasons ago, they finish in the playoffs, they get relegated in 24th place. Now, I don't think Huddersfield will do that because they do still have some quality players. Josh Karoma, Dwayne Holmes, there are a few more players there, but they've still got quality, so they're always going to have players that they can really rely on to sort of pull them up. So I think mid-table is probably fair, but for me, Huddersfield, I'm going for 14th place. And in 13th place, I've got the team that finished 13th last season, Preston. Now, Preston, I am convinced by their manager, Ryan Lowe, I think did a brilliant job last season at making them hard to beat. They just could have done with, getting a few more wins because they did end up being the draw specialists. 16 draws in the season, so quite a lot. But he did a good job. He really turned the club around because Frankie McAvoy was just a poor appointment, ended up getting sacked. It didn't work out. Their squad has had some interesting changes because Troy Parrott's came in on loan. They had Cameron Archer last season. Can he fill, that void? And then they've brought in Robbie Brady, Ben Woodburn, Freddie Woodman, some good signings, I think, at Championship level, and I think their squad is going to be better than it was last season. But I also think there's a lot of quality teams that are going to finish above them. So for me, Preston remain in 13th. And in 12th place, I've got one of the stories of the season last season, Luton Town. Now, I know they finished in the playoffs last season, finished 6th. It was a massive achievement for a club with that sort of budget, that sort of size. Nathan Jones is really taking them in the right direction. I don't think they're going to be able to repeat what they did last season because there's a lot of good teams in this division, and I think people will be able to work their way around Luton now. They have lost Cal Naismith, important centre-back for them, and they haven't replaced him. So that's a bit of a worry, but there's still time left. They've brought in relegated duo Carlton Morris and Corley Woodrow as attacking reinforcements from Barnsley. I think they can be good signings, but I just think Luton are always going to drop off from 6th spot. I don't think they can repeat a playoff spot again. It's going to be a very tough ask. So for me, Luton, they could drop off further. They could finish higher. It's a difficult one again. But Luton, 12th place for me. In 11th place, I'm going for QPR. Now, they finished 11th last season, but they should have finished higher. They should have been definitely in the playoffs and pushing for automatics. They started brilliantly, and they dropped off right at the end with a terrible run. They've made some good signings. Tyler Roberts on a loan from Leeds. I think that is a very good signing at this level. I think he will do well for them up front. They have lost Charlie Austin in that position. So make of that what you will. I think Tyler Roberts might offer them a bit more, but might be a bit more inconsistent maybe because he's still young. Defensively, they've lost Johan Barbe, but they've brought in Jake Clark-Salter on a free. Again, that's a centre-back. Jake Clark-Salter, I think, will do a good job, but Barbe was key in this squad. Has that got better? I'm not sure. Last season, I predicted them in the playoffs. I don't think I can do that this season. I'm not so hot on them now. But for me, QPR, 11th place. In 10th place, I'm going to go for Coventry. They finished 12th last season. They did spend quite a lot of time in the playoffs. They had a great season, had a great home record. Before the season, Coventry 12th would have been a big achievement. Obviously, when you're halfway through the season and doing so well, you'd hope that you can carry on. But a good season from Coventry last season. They've made some good signings as well. They've brought in Casey Palmer on a permanent, as well as some very young players that are going to be wanting experience because they're from Premier League clubs. Adaramola, Doyle, and Jonathan Panzo as well from Nottingham Forest. So some good signings there that are going to want to prove themselves. They have got quite a young team anyway, players like Callum O'Hare in there. So I think Coventry are going to have another good season, pretty similar to last season, but just finish a few places higher in 10th. In 9th place, I'm going for the team that I went for 9th place last season and got correct, Millwall. Now Millwall, they have brought in some good signings. They've signed George Honeyman from Hull on a permanent, and then some loan signings from Leeds, Charlie Cresswell and Shackleton. I think they'll be, again, wanting to prove themselves. I think they're ready for Championship football, so that's going to be interesting to see how they get on. They have lost Jed Wallace, who's been there for so long. He's been a key player for them, so that's going to be a big miss for Millwall. But one thing with Gary Rowett, he makes teams difficult to beat. We know this. Millwall are normally the draw specialists. They also did draw a lot of games last season. And yeah, towards the end of the season, they started to pick up a few more wins than draws, which started pushing them towards the playoffs. I think something similar this season, very similar, 9th place. In 8th place, I'm being stupid. I'm going for Stoke. Now, everybody always puts Stoke way too high, and they always end up in the lower half. They have to be one of the most underperforming teams that we always see because they were in the Premier League not so long back. They haven't really had a good Championship season. They always finish just in the bottom half. And I was hot on them last season. I thought they'd get playoffs. I've dropped off a little bit. They've made some good signings. They've brought in Dwight Gale, who at this level should really be smashing it. Then they've also brought in Josh Lauren and Aidan Flint, some, again, good Championship players. So I think they're strengthening their side. And I do think now is the time for them to push on. I said that last season. But for me, Stoke, they've got the team to do it. They just always seem to disappoint. Stoke, 8th place. In 7th place will be a shock, but I'm going for it. Watford. Reasons, I am not excited by any of their incomings. I don't really think any of them are strengthening their squad. And then I also think bringing in Rob Edwards from Forest Green is a big risk. He was from League Two, and I know with Watford it's a big risk. If it doesn't work out, they will sack him pretty quickly. So at least it could turn around. But I just don't think. I think it's a very big step up, and it's a club that expects a lot. So it's going to be very difficult. I also think they currently do have Ismail Assar, Emmanuel Dennis, and João Pedro. I don't think they will have any of those three players by the end of the transfer window. I think they should all be playing for top 5 league clubs, around Europe. So I can't see them staying in the Championship. Obviously Ismail Assar and João Pedro did last time, but I don't see it. I think they had some good Premier League performances last season and will move on. Also, a funny thing about this is last season I thought Sheffield United would finish outside the playoffs. I don't know why. I just sort of have this feeling that one of the teams that comes down won't be in the top 6. For me this season, it's Watford. However, if they keep those players, they will probably get automatic promotion, so it's difficult. They have also lost Cucho Hernandez, who looked good last season, and Musa Sissoko, who is full of experience. In the Championship, he will be a brilliant player. Kuchka has went as well, so they've lost quite a few players. Ben Foster going, he is coming to the end of his career, but they've lost a lot, not brought in too much, and I think they're going to lose more. League 2 manager comes in. I don't think it's really going to work out. So for me, Watford, 7th place. And in 6th place, I'm going for Swansea. Now, they really seemed to get into a rhythm towards the end of last season. Then they drew a game, they couldn't get playoffs, they dropped off again. But I do believe that Russell Martin this season, with his possession-based football, can really get this team going and get them into a playoff spot. Now, they have lost Flynn Downs, he went to West Ham, but they've brought in some good players. Harry Darling has came in from MK Dons, Russell Martin's old team, so he'll know how Harry Darling's been trained and things like that. I think that's a very good signing. He looks like an exciting defender. Then Joe Allen, experienced midfielder. I think that's a good signing as well. I think he'll bring a lot to the team. I think they will make a few more signings, but for me, Swansea, I do believe in Russell Martin. I think he is a good manager. I think he's going to work wonders with his team. And I'm not saying I think they can get automatics, because I don't. But playoffs, I think, is achievable. So I'm going Swansea in 6th. In 5th place, Middlesbrough. Now, they finished just outside the playoffs last season in 7th. I think they're going to be inside the playoffs now. Chris Wilder has a full season. He's a very good manager at this level. He's probably the best manager in the league. So they've definitely got that going for them. They've brought in some good players. Marcus Forss from Brentford on a permanent. Good signing at this level. I think he will do very, very well. Score a lot of goals for them. Be very vital. And then they've brought in Zach Steffen on loan from Man City, the goalkeeper. I think that's a good signing. It'll be interesting to see how he does, because he hasn't really had first team football for a while. But interested to see how he does at this level. And I mean, if Man City think he's good, I'd imagine that he would do a good job. They have signed some other players. Those are the ones that I thought were the most notable. Then they have also lost Jed Spence, but it's not really a loss because he didn't play last season. So if anything, it's a gain, because he's went and they've got a lot of money for him that they can reinvest into the squad. So expect Middlesbrough to do some more business before the end of the transfer window. 5th place for Middlesbrough. I think they're going to get playoffs. In 4th place, I'm going for Sheffield United. Heckingbottom came in and did a very, very good job taking over from Djukanovic, who really struggled at Sheffield United. Morgan Gibbs-White was a very key player for them last season, and he's obviously went back to Wolves because it was only a loan deal. Sander Berger might be on the way out. There's rumours of him going to the Bundesliga, but if they can hold on to him, he will do brilliantly for them again. Billy Sharp is their only consistent striker, which is one of my worries because he is getting older. But I think he can still do it at this level, and if the others can sort of pick it up, they've got some good striking options. They've made some good defensive transfers as well. Kieran Clark coming in. Ahmed Hodzic from Malmo, I believe, is again, I don't know much about him, but I've seen him on Football Manager and he looks like a good defender. So I know it's not much to go by, but young, looks like he could be a good player at this level, looking at his profile. So good signings there, good defensive reinforcements. I think Sheffield United are nailed on to finish in the top 6. Whether they can break into the top 2 is another question, but for me, Sheffield United, 4th place. And in 3rd place, might come as a surprise, probably will. I'm going for Norwich. I don't have faith that they can get automatics. Dean Smith will do a good job at this level. However, their squad for me is considerably worse than it was the last time they were in the Championship. Yes, they still have Campbell, but he doesn't want to be there, so he's not really going to play. Buendia obviously isn't there anymore. So even in attack, their team is nowhere near as good as it was last time in the Championship. Buendia was, one of the best players of the season in that year. So I'm not convinced that they can get into the top two. They have brought in Isaac Hayden on loan from Newcastle, and then unknown to me, Brazilian from the Brazilian League from Sao Paulo, Gabriel Sara, central midfielder. They spent about $9.5 million on him. If they spent that much, you'd hope he'd be a good player, but I'm not sure. Don't know much about him. Not much to go off. So for me, Norwich don't look as good as they were last time they were in the Championship. I think they're still going to lose a few players. Pucky will stay, but whether Sargent and Rashika, whether they stay in the Championship, I'm not too sure. So yeah, surprise, but for me, Norwich not finishing in the automatic spots, 3rd place. In 2nd place, this will be a surprise as well, because I think a lot of people don't fancy them to even get playoffs. I'm going for Burnley. Could be a bit of a strange suggestion that definitely backfires, and the 2 that I've picked for automatics probably won't end up getting it, because there's a big risk with these teams. But Burnley, for me, Vincent Kompany coming in is smart. He's got very good links. He's signed 3 Man City players, 2 loan youngsters and 1 goalie, Muric. And then he's brought in a player from Anderlecht, Josh Cullen, a midfielder, and obviously he's worked with him previously. He's brought in Ian Matson, fullback from Chelsea on loan. So there's some interesting players that they've brought in, and I do think that Burnley are going to do well under Kompany, because I think he's changing the way they're playing. He's got obviously good links, good contacts in the game. And I think a lot of people want to send their youngsters out on loan to this Vincent Kompany Burnley side, which sounds weird to say. They have lost a lot of players, which is obviously a big worry. But I think they're going through a new era completely different football. So will it end up being such a big loss? The names they've lost are massive for them. Nick Pope gone, been brilliant for them for ages. Tarkowski, Ben Mee, and Nathan Collins, 3 centre-backs, all gone. Again, a big miss for them. And then Dwight McNeil's left as well. The guy who couldn't score a goal in the Premier League at all, but you could see his creativeness. It wasn't about his stats. He was very creative. He could run past players. I think maybe he's in between Premier League and Championship level at the moment, but they've lost him as well. So big losses. Weghorst has gone out on loan because he didn't want to play in the Championship. They have lost a lot of players, and the more I speak about it, the more I think maybe they're not going to get automatics. But I believe that Vincent Kompany can do a very good job. And the player I'm most excited about, that I've saved till last, Scott Twine from MK Dons. Very, very good signing, I think. He did brilliantly at MK Dons, was pivotal for them nearly getting automatic promotion last season. And I think that I think MK Dons I think Burnley are going to do very well with him as one of their main players. I think he's very exciting, and I think he's going to score a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of assists. I think they're going to get some more signings in. I am excited by this Burnley side, and in a big contrast to a lot of other people, because everyone else seems to have Norwich and Watford well above Burnley, I'm going for Burnley, 2nd place. Which means top of the league for a 2nd year running. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. But West Bromwich Albion. Now, I made a mistake last season. I put them top. Ishmael didn't really work. They ended up quite stale football. 10th in the league. Not a good season. But Under Steve Bruce now, I think he's had a transfer window. He's got some very good signings in. I think that West Brom are going to be back on their way to the Premier League. Whether it's winning the league, getting second or going up for the playoffs, I think they are going to have a very good season. I may be overshooting this again. I don't know why I fancy West Brom to win the league so much. But I haven't seen anyone else say it, that's for certain, because probably not going to happen. I've just got this feeling, it's so weird. Signings of John Swift and Jed Wallace massively improve this squad, and bringing in OK Yakushlu from back on loan because he was there in the Premier League, brilliant signing. I think he's really going to make them stronger in midfield. I think they're going to sign some more players as well. Haven't really lost anyone. I think this West Brom squad, well, they lost Sam Johnson to Palace, but other than that, not many players have went out the door that are going to be of a massive loss to them. I think even if Steve Bruce starts poorly and gets sacked, I think there is a squad here that the starting 11 is the best in the Championship. It may be crazy to say. I think they've got a very strong starting 11. And I think that West Brom are going to win the league. I don't know why I'm saying it again, because I said it last season and they finished 10th. But I'm going for it. West Brom, first place. So, that's it. Those are my predictions. Very, very crazy. I feel like it's even crazier than last season, some of the things I've came out with. But the Championship, if there's one thing about it, it's so difficult to predict. It is the hardest league in the world. It's so competitive. No one knows what's going to happen. I've went for Rotherham, Wigan and Reading all to get relegated. I've went for West Brom and Burnley to go up for the automatics. It's a bit different, but I just got a feeling. It's so strange. I've got that feeling and I may as well go for it. Why not? If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel, really helps out. I'm hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. I know it's a big ask. We're currently on around the 140 mark, so it's going to be difficult to get there, but let's start pushing now. This is where it starts. The season's starting. I'm excited for the Championship. I hope you are. I hope your teams obviously do well. And hit the notification bell as well, just so you don't miss out on any content. These have been my predictions for this Championship season. Hoping Blues can stay up, but I think they will. I've got confidence. Up the Blues.